My name is Marty Warren. I'm a dental laboratory technician at Keller Laboratories in St. Louis. Flexible partials have been notoriously difficult to adjust and repolish chairside. To address that issue, Keller has introduced two new products, DuraFlex Flexible Partials and ClearFrame Partials. Both of these products are easier to adjust chairside and repolish. With the addition of a finishing kit from Brasseler, I will demonstrate how to do this chairside. We'll start with the demonstration of adjusting the DuraFlex appliance. DuraFlex is extremely flexible, similar to other flexible appliances on the market. The difference with this material is that it is much easier to adjust. You use more standard tools to adjust it, where some of the nylon-based materials, you have to use special tools to adjust that material because it melts fairly easily. This material, you can use a standard carbide burr. We prefer a die trim burr from Brasseler. This is part of our kit. And the real trick to this is just running it at a little bit lower speed than normal. So we're going to run this at about 2,500 RPMs, or 25,000 RPMs I should say. And if you have a border that needs to be shortened because the patient's uncomfortable with the appliance, just go after that border with this die trim burr and take off what you need to take off. A light touch produces a pretty smooth finish on the appliance when making these gross adjustments. So as you can see, even just after adjusting with a burr, the surface is fairly smooth. There's not a lot of deep scratches that I put into it. So after making that adjustment, we'll change out our burr and use this small pink polishing wheel. This wheel is a polish impregnated wheel. It must be used wet, so you want to make sure you have a cup of cool water nearby and wet down this polishing wheel. Kind of get the excess off. And again, a lighter touch is better with this material. If you use a heavy touch with it, you'll tend to burn the material with this polishing wheel. So I'm right about 10,000 RPMs here, and with that, I can produce a nice high shine on the border of this appliance that we just adjusted. If you have any areas you want to go back and touch up, you can go back to the Brasseler burr. Do a little light touch up here. Do it nice and slow just to get those kind of little fuzzy pieces off of it. Go back to the high shine wheel. Make sure it's wet, not too wet, a little bit wet. Again, just hit that border while the wheel is nice and wet. And you'll get a nice high shine out of that. See, we're back almost to the original luster of the appliance. For our ClearFrame partial, this is a partial that has two different components. It has the clear framework, but it has standard pink methyl methacrylate acrylic for the saddles. One of the big advantages of this appliance is you can reline these saddle areas chairside and not have to have the appliance sent back to the laboratory as the patient's tissue heals. So you adjust the acrylic just like you would any standard acrylic, because that's what it is. You can be nice and aggressive. I'm running this at 35,000 RPM. You take off large chunks. So that's just standard acrylic, and we'll repolish that in a minute with the polishing wheel. The ClearFrame material also really finishes very similar to acrylic. It's a little different, but it's got some similarities. So if we need to shorten this border here for comfort for the patient, I'm running that at 25,000 RPMs. And again, similar to the DuraFlex, The burr actually leaves this material pretty smooth itself. So the strings will come off with your finger, and just a little light application of the burr will take that right off. So you can see the surface is already fairly smooth. Then we'll go back to the polishing wheel. Make sure it's wet. Dip in a little bit of water. And go back over these surfaces with our polishing wheel. And there's plenty of polish on this. It's the same one I used on the DuraFlex previously. But there are 2 polishing wheels in each kit in case you need a second one. I'm right around 10,000 RPMs on this material also. And as you can see, after I wipe off the pink polish, we have achieved a shine again on that border. See it right there. Then again, the acrylic section is much more like regular acrylic. And we'll use the same polishing wheel for this. And you can be a little more aggressive with this acrylic because it won't burn as easily as the ClearFrame material or the DuraFlex. And it polishes that acrylic right up in just a few seconds. To adjust clasp on a DuraFlex appliance, the easiest method is to dip the clasp that you want to adjust, either to loosen or tighten it, into hot tap water for about 30 seconds to a minute. This being a thermoplastic material, it allows the material to become a little bit more pliable, and we can move that clasp and it'll stay in that position. So I'm going to demonstrate this one loosening the clasp. So after dipping it in the hot water, I'm going to take my thumb and just bend the clasp out, and again hold that position for about 15 to 30 seconds. It may take more than one attempt to get the clasp to stay in that position, and I'm over bending it, so it's not going to be sticking out as far as I'm bending it right now when we're done. So as I pull my thumb off of there, the clasp is moved out buccally. I'll reverse that process and bend it in so you can see the difference to tighten the clasp. So I'm just going to bend that in and hold it in that position for about 15 to 30 seconds. And again, I'm bending it past the point that I want it to be in position. It'll spring back a little bit when I release. You can see that clasp stayed in that position. It bounced back just a little bit. So that's a very simple method. It doesn't damage the clasp in any way. It's going to be just as strong as it was when it was first made. I hope this demonstration was useful for you chairside. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact Keller Laboratories at any time. Our number here is 1-800-325-3056.